Welcome to the Barack Obama approved world's greatest podcast, Hyphen Nation. I am your host, Kellen Conley, and I already said this is Hyphen Nation, but I have someone who I've wanted to get on my podcast since I first started it in 2016, ladies and gentlemen. And we came close last year to making it happen, but then life happened. And then finally I reached out to him yesterday. I was like, can you do the show with me? He's like, what's up? I was like, I don't care. I just want you to be on my podcast. He's like, absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, live from Brooklyn, New York, I give you Derrick Ferguson.
Hello, how y'all doing? Greetings and salutations. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I've been looking forward to being on it with you as much as you have, sir.
Awesome. So, for those of you not to know, Derrick is a writer extraordinaire first and foremost. He is an author. And when I say author, I mean he's a real author. He got books in bricks and mortars in some places, and Amazon mostly. But he is an author. He also is a former co-host of one of the podcasts that I used to help out with, Better in the Dark. One of the, I like to say it was crowned and renowned. I believe that's what Tom used to call it. One of the greatest movie podcasts has probably been graced the internet, in my opinion. But of course, I am biased. He was on there for many years with Tom doing movie reviews and things of that nature.
7 years. Can you believe that?
I can't, man. Like, I was looking through I have it still on my podcast app, and I was just looking through the number of shows that says it's unlistened, even though I've listened to most of them. And it's like 300 some shows with all the 0.5s and everything put together.
Yeah. I was surprised. The last time I talked to Tom, man, we were talking, and he made mention of how many years. I said, really? It was that long? It certainly didn't seem like it when we were doing it. But I guess because since we were having such a good time doing it, the time just flew by.
Yeah, and I mean, I was along with you guys from the very start of it. And
yeah, absolutely.
I'm just checking now. 344 episodes is what it says I hadn't listened to on my podcast app. So,
your contribution was invaluable, and I think that's part of what made that podcast as successful as it was, and still is, because I get emails from people that they discover it. And, they say, oh, man, this is terrific. I wish I'd known about this when it was, when you guys were doing it.
We were popping, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a fun ride because y'all started in 2007, because I remember the first couple episodes was like you did trailer previews, essentially. And then Spider-Man 3 came out, and that was like episode 3 or 4. And then, of course, you did the Halloween episode pretty early, and the Harryhausen episode pretty early. And this is all off top of the head. So that's how dedicated I am, Derrick. So, and then y'all just kind of started figuring things out as y'all went. And it was a great ride, man.
Yeah.
I'm not speculating on anything. We've had private discussions, me, you, Tom, and Kelly, and Des a little bit about if there will ever be a return. But I strongly recommend, my first recommendation of this episode is that you guys go look up Better in the Dark. The website's actually still up. It's I believe it's betterinthedark.wordpress.com now. I think the domain name isn't up, but it's out there, and it has all the episodes on there thanks to Kelly Loge, who did a great job. The episode's up. Go check it out. It's been a few years since the guys recorded together, but it's really worth your time. You're going to find a lot of great content on there.
As a matter of fact, we did do, I don't want to call it a Better in the Dark reunion episode, but what movie did we went to see? We went to see Happy Death Day to You.
Okay. And
when we came out of the movie theater, we recorded, our impressions of the movie, and we did about 20 minutes. Well, we were in my car. We were driving back to Brooklyn, and we were in the car, and we were recording it. Where if you go to the Dread Media Facebook page, you can find the link to it on there somewhere.
How did I not know that? I'm go find it right after this because I gotta have my fix of my guys.
Yeah, I mean, and then we saw another movie after that. We went to see another movie, but something happened to the raw feed of that, and Tom lost it. It got corrupted or whatever like that. But we came out and we did this little, quick 20 minutes, talking about the movie. So, and I mean, Tom and I have had discussions about, well, do we want to bring it back? Do we want to do it again? And, our strong feeling is that, we wouldn't want to do it unless, of course, you were a part of it and Kelly is a part of it, because we felt it was a team. It was a whole team. It wasn't just me and Tom. It was, all of us all together. And frankly, since I am horrendously materialistic, I said, well, I want to make sure that we can make some money off of this,
Yeah, it's so. I almost feel like we missed the window with Better in the Dark, because there was a few times that I know that there were people who were sending what they could to the show, and there were some fundraisers that y'all tried to do. But now it seems like every time I try a new podcast out, they're talking about their Patreon, and you go check out their Patreon, and they have all these people who are literally donating to their one show. And I'm like, we just missed that window. Like, just as Better in the Dark was slowing down, Patreon kind of took off.
Yeah, just when we stopped doing it, that's when you had all of this thing like the Kickstarter and the Patreon and all of that was starting up. And I felt that we could have, cashed in on that, if we had hung around for a while, but we did, and as I was telling Tom, I've had some small success with my own Patreon page where I present original fiction every month. And, I mean, I'm not getting rich off of it, but, it's a nice couple of dollars that I get coming in every month.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, since we're on the topic of Better in the Dark, I mean, I didn't know how much you want to get into it, because I know that the demand is high, and I know you guys have, and hell, all of us have talked privately about what the possibility of what the future would bring. I didn't know how much you want to get into it, but I just want to bring up one of my favorite Better in the Dark moments while we're sitting right here. First thing that comes to mind is Giant Foam Kong out of nowhere. Yeah. That you started singing the Giant Foam Kong for your mama. Like that's the thing about Better in the Dark. It was serious movie reviews. Like, you can go to Derrick and you can go to Tom and get a serious movie review. But when they were together on the microphone, it was magical, because they play off of each other, and you would just get all kinds of silly moments. I was on the show 2 times, maybe 3 times, because I was on the Blade episode, or not the Blade episode, the Shaft episode, the Prince episode, and maybe one other. But every time it just fell into complete silliness, and we got so far off track just talking about everything. But that was the thing, that it was just the chemistry between you guys, and that came from your lifelong friendship, because you and Tom have known each other for years, right?
Well, we had known each other. Our association began because both of us were writing DC and Marvel fan fiction.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's how we got to know each other, because back then, I mean, it's not a big thing now, but back then, you had all of these different websites that were based around Marvel and DC, fan fiction, and you had guys that were writing, like I wrote like the Hulk and the Avengers, and I did a Prowler series, and all kinds of stuff. So we knew each other as writers for a few years. And the way that Better in the Dark started, it just started as a lark, because Tom knew somebody that needed content for his internet radio station.
Right, I forgot about
Tom
that.
had said, yeah, well, I got a friend of mine, he likes movies, I like the movies, maybe we can do something. And that's how it started. We were only supposed to do like 6 episodes. So we did the 6 episodes. And then after that, we said, well, why don't we just keep this going on our own? Because for some reason, that deal, fell through.
Right.
We just didn't want to throw away the 6 episodes that we had did. So we said, well, why don't we just, do a podcast? So I didn't know anything about podcasting. Tom had some experience in it, and he also had experience in radio.
Yeah.
So he knew how to edit the episodes and stuff like that. And I think what made it special was the fact that when we recorded it, Tom would come over to my house. We would set aside a Friday, and we would say, okay, well, we're going to set this day aside. And, we would usually record like 2 episodes, and I think that where that's where the chemistry came from, because it was the 2 of us sitting in the same room at the same time talking to each other. So we were having a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That the listeners were eavesdropping on. So when you're actually sitting there next to somebody, it's easy to have that back and forth and to get into that riffing and do that type of thing. And I think that's what set us apart and made us unique, in that we you could hear we were having a good time while we were doing it.
Yeah, and that clearly came across every single episode. Even when Tom was getting angry about something, or even when you would get upset about something, the main focus was you were giving it to people straight. You weren't sugarcoating it. You had no money coming in as far as, hey, give this movie a good review or anything. You guys were literally 2 dudes from Brooklyn watching movies.
Well,
and
yeah.
And that's the incredible thing about it. So again, I highly recommend that y'all go back and check out all that material that's available. It's still on earth2.net. And that's it's earth-2.net, I believe.
Yes.
So that's still on there. And then it's on iTunes, anywhere podcasts are sold. So make sure you check that out. And then maybe, I don't know if you remember this, Derrick, maybe if Thomas gave me permission, I'll break out the original podcast that got Thomas into podcasting, which is Other People's Toys, which I have every episode of on my hard drive still.
Wow, really?
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
You want to contact him and tell him, I know he would love it. He probably still got it somewhere, because Tom never throws it. Tom's got everything.
Oh, I know.
I don't save anything. I don't, no, I don't. I don't even go back and listen to the episodes, because people say, oh, you've never listened to that? I said, no. I said, first of all, I hate the sound of my voice.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, I hate the sound. I would, I record the episode. Now, my wife, she would listen to it, and she would say, oh, yeah, well, it sounds good, and she would tell me how it was. And that's why, because you know how you always hear actors say, well, I never watch my own movies, and you say, that must be a bunch of bullshit, but once I started doing the podcast, I understood how they felt, because I never went back and I never listened to, some of them, on very rare occasions, I would go back and I would listen to it. But for the most part, most of those episodes I've never heard.
Yeah.
I would say there's about a good 75% of those episodes I've never heard of. I've never listened to them.
That's how much
I don't like the sound of my voice.
I don't hate the sound of my voice, obviously, but
no, but you've got a pleasant voice. I like hearing your voice.
Well, I appreciate that. But I used to go back when in my early podcasting days, when I used to do the hip hop show with my friend Matt and everything. Or anything else I would do, I'd just be so eager to go back and listen to playback. And now with Hyphen Nation, like, unless I'm looking for something specific, or I literally just turn it on while I'm kind of doing something just to hear something I might have done a while back, I don't listen to episodes either. Like, if I have somebody on with me and a guest, like, I might check it just to see what I said or what I might be able to work on and stuff. But normally I'm so organized when I go into these things anymore that I don't even have to think about doing an actual interview. We're literally having a conversation about a certain topic, so it's not even that much work. I don't listen to half of the episodes either. Like, so I completely get it now, and that blows my mind, because I used to be so eager. I gotta listen to this episode. Listen how it sounds. I know how it sounded. I was there.
Yeah, well, right? Yeah, exactly. That's what I tell people. I said, well, I don't have to listen to it. I was there. I know what's there. It's like every once in a while I get an email from somebody, and they'll ask me about a scene in one of my books or one of my stories. And I said, well, hold on, I got to go back and I got to read it. I said, well, what do you mean you have to go back and read it? You wrote it. I said, yeah, but once I wrote it, that's it. I don't read it. I mean, I don't go back and read my stuff. I don't.
Right.
Especially when I write, say, like a Dillon novel, by the time I've finished it, I've read the thing about like 50, 60 times. I have no desire to read it ever again in life. I don't.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I mean, because writing is a tough process. I mean, you do your first draft, and then you got to go back and do however many drafts you're doing, and editing and cutting this out and doing all the different things. And by the time you finish, then you don't want to ever look at it again. So.
I never wanted like the only time I made, and even then I don't read, like when I'm writing like a new Dillon story or a new Dillon novel. If I have to go back, because of course I have to go back and I have to double check and make sure that I don't get the eye color of a character wrong, or
Right.
I may reference something that happened in a previous book, so I'll go back. But I'll just read that one section. I won't like sit there and like read the whole book. You know,
Like, man, this is a page turner. Who wrote this? Who wrote this book? This is so good.
No, as a matter of fact, because I'm working on I'm working on the sequel to Young Dillon in the Halls of Shambhala. I'm working on the sequel now, so I read that book for the first time in since I wrote it, and that was like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, something, this ain't half bad.
I was listening to an audiobook a few weeks ago, and I immediately hopped in the Facebook group or Dylan's group, and I was like, who's that guy reading? Because his voice is magical.
Yeah. Oh man, that guy, he's the same guy that did the Fortune McCall, the audiobook.
Yeah, you told me that, Dan. So I got to check that one out. But I was listening to it, and I think I'm only on chapter 2 of the audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, man, this guy's good. Like the inflections and everything. And then even I was like, man, he nailed it. He nailed it for sure. So now we're crossing into your writing career, but I do want to say that writing is how I actually met Derrick Ferguson, ladies and gentlemen, because like Derrick said, I got into the fan fiction game in the early 2000s. Derrick was a big wig over at Marvel Volume 1 and various other places writing all this other cool stuff. And of course, he was at what was it, Legends? Is that where you were writing?
DC Legends. Yep.
Yes, DC Legends. And I saw his name on a bunch of stuff, and I was like, man, this Derrick Ferguson guy writes a lot of stuff. And imagine my surprise when I don't know how I discovered it. You might have posted a picture, posted something on the website. I was like, Derrick Ferguson's a brother. Yes. Because I was an 18, 19-year-old black kid from West Virginia who decided he wanted to try his hand at writing some fan fiction when he discovered it. And then to find out that this guy who was highly respected in this community I just joined was getting all this praise, and it turned out that he was a black author. I was just absolutely floored by that. So I was actually intimidated by you at one point, Derrick, because of how everybody praised you and just how the way you carried yourself online. I was like, man, like this guy's got his stuff together. Like he just kind of writes his stuff in his spare time. And like, I'm never, like in my own young head, I'm like, I'm never going to get on this guy's level. And then eventually we became friends, and I think it was through LiveJournal. And then because LiveJournal back in the day was where everything was popping, because you'd read everybody's stuff on your friends list, and then you would comment.
Back then, LiveJournal was what Facebook is now.
Yeah, it was his own community, and of course the Russian bots came in and took all that away, and Facebook developed. I was actually on my LiveJournal not too long ago, and I was like, like it's still up, and I was reading some of the things I'd say. I'm like, man, if I could only talk to that kid and be like, what are you talking about, crying about this on LiveJournal? But we became friends, me and Derrick, and I think we started really talking around the time that you had started Frontier Publishing with several other writer friends of yours from fanfic. Like Russ comes to mind, Russ Anderson.
Yeah, it was Russ Anderson, Mike Exner the third, Eric Fromm.
Yeah.
Tom DJ.
Tom was in there, of course.
Yeah.
Was it
Megan
McGee?
Megan Curtis. Who else?
Mike McGee, was he in there?
Mike McGee. Yeah, because he was the one. That's when he created the city of Denbrook, which I still use in my fiction. It was Joel Jenkins.
Yes,
he was part of that crew too. Yeah, But it was about like, I would say almost about 10 of us that started, we were all writing fan fiction at that time, but we all had, you know, um, we all wanted to write original fiction.
Yeah.
So we all got together, and we said, okay, well, what are we going to call this? And I think it was Des Davies. I think he was the one that came up with the name Frontier. I mean, I don't really remember how. This was a long time back.
Yeah, this is like 2003 when I remember it coming about.
But what had happened, and what we did was that every month, we each presented a new chapter, whatever we would work. Mostly it was serialized novels, and I like to think that I'm keeping the spirit of Frontier alive with my own Patreon site, which the more perceptive of you out there will keep noticing that I keep mentioning.
We're definitely going to plug it. Don't worry. I got you.
So I'm still keeping that spirit alive because in Frontier, what we did was that we presented a new chapter every month. Matter of fact, that's where Dillon and the Voice of Odin, that's where it was first presented. I presented a new chapter, and everybody had a different chapter going. So every month when you came back to Frontier, you were guaranteed you was going to have a lot of good reading because you had at least about 8, 9, 10 chapters of all these different stories that were going on all at the same time.
Hold up. Hey,
I'm Thomas Deja, top professional.
I'm Scott McGregor, talented amateur.
And we'd like to invite you to join us for our journey through every adventure of the Avengers.
No, not that Avengers. You won't find any tights, magic hammers, or fancy shields here.
But you will find some supervillains and some hot women in tight leather, so there is that.
And champagne.
Oh, yeah, lots of champagne.
With Umbrella, Charm, and Bowler, that other Avengers podcast, covering the seminal spy series that lasted from 1961 to 1969 on an episode-by-episode basis.
Join us as we explore the television series that helps shape pop culture. I mean, an icon out of Diana Rigg, Honor Blackman, and Patrick Dean.
With Umbrella, Charm, and Bowler.
That other Avengers podcast, coming straight towards you every month.
Only on the Two True Freaks podcast network.
Right. And it was just like almost going to the comic shop every week, except you're getting original content. And that's what floored me, because a good fan fiction site around that time, they would have releases every single week, and except you're writing other companies' characters. And then you guys came in and were like, well, fuck this, we're going to do our own shit. And then y'all just started doing your own ideas and spinning it out. And one of the things that immediately caught my eye was I saw your name was on it, was this character named Dillon. So can you kind of explain where Dillon came from? I know you've done this so many times, either on your site or on other shows before, but can you do it for me, Derrick?
Okay. Basically, Dillon started because I remember when, as a young lad, my father was a big, movie fan, as is my mother, which is where I get my love of movies from. And me and my father used to watch movies all the time. And I remember we were watching a James Bond movie. I believe it was Diamonds Are Forever. And one of the things that I always wondered, because I would always go to the movies or watch movies at home and see all these terrific action heroes and stuff like that. And I was saying, well, Dad, how come there's not a black James Bond? And he said, well, because even then I wanted to be a writer. I told my father, yeah, one day I'm going to grow up and be a writer. He said, yeah, sure, kid. And he said, okay, well, when you get to be a writer, why don't you create a black James Bond? And as I got a little bit older, and it was around like 1976 and 1977 is what I call the big pulp boom of that era. Whereas that's when Bantam started reprinting the 1930s Doc Savage with those great James Bond covers. That's when they started getting reprinted in paperback form. And once that became a success, well, then, of course, they brought back the Avenger, and they brought back the Shadow and G8 and all these other great pulp characters. And that's when I discovered these characters and that genre of pulp. And I said, wow, okay, this is perfect for what I want to do without even really fully understanding it. But I understood the feeling that I wanted to get, not only from the pulp, but also from, because back then, you had on PBS, they would occasionally run the serials like Spy Smasher and Flash Gordon and all of these great cliffhangers. And I said, okay, that's what I want to do. That's what I latched into it. And I created this character in the mold of, the classic pulp heroes like Doc Savage and Tarzan and all of those guys. But he's black, that's,
It's huge.
Well, you know what? I thought it was huge, because, and I think that the appeal of Dillon is that he's a black character. We see him in situations and doing things and encountering, all kinds of wild, crazy characters and getting into situations that we've never seen a black character get into before. We don't usually see a black character taking on, like a Goldfinger level supervillain that's out to conquer the world.
Right. And like Dillon is just, I didn't read it when it was on Frontier. I was fronting for some reason, but the book came out and I was like, oh, my man got a book out. I got to at least get the book, let me pick up this book, Dillon in the Voice of Odin, and finally read this whole thing all together. Cause I had read like snippets and stuff, but I read the Voice of Odin, Derrick. And I think if my memory fails me, or not fails me, I feel like the original release of it was, when you first put it out, was like at least 2008, I think.
Somewhere around there. I'd have to go back and look at it. But yeah, it was vaguely somewhere around there. And
I got the book, and I sat down and read it, and it had the original cover, not the Sean Ali cover that's on there now, the gorgeous Sean Ali. I still have my copy downstairs somewhere. And I read this book, and I was just completely floored, because I knew you could write, Derrick. Don't get me wrong. I'd read your stuff before, but I didn't realize how great you were at crafting worlds. And something I've learned over the years as a so-called writer and a reader of tons of fiction and science fiction is, when you're an author and you're trying to tell a story of a character, you have to be able to world build. And one of the things that you did so well in Voice of Odin, even though it's just one story in Dillon, like a few days in Dillon's life, a couple weeks, you still were able to build this whole mythology around Dillon and just these few tales of everything that happened with him trying to track down the Odin and everything. And it's just, and then on top of that, like I said, the character was black. So I was like, that's a double bonus, because not only is this adventure fun, but then you're putting a black character at the head of it. And it was just a completely fun ride. And the best thing about the Voice of Odin for me is I immediately wanted to start the next book, which I don't think was out yet. So, because Legend, like you had started Golden Bell on Frontier site, but then Frontier shuttered, and then it became, you were trying to actually get the Golden Bell released. So Dillon is just a fantastic character, and his world and everything that goes along with him. Kudos to you for how you've been able to develop him over the years, and especially with that first book.
You want to know where that came from? The Voice of Odin. Usually, as a lot of people have noticed, in which I get complimented on, which, I say, oh yeah, thanks a lot, because that's exactly what I'm going on, that I'm going for, is that the Dillon novels are basically summer blockbuster action movies in prose.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they are.
Yes, they are.
And they're inspired by different movies and stuff like that, like Dillon and the Legend of the Golden Bell. The second half of the book, when Dillon and his friends actually have to descend into the bowels of the earth to recover the Golden Bell, that's inspired by Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So that whole second half of the book, that's my riff on it. Dillon, the Voice of Odin, actually, believe it or not, it was inspired by the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh, okay.
Because if you remember Buckaroo Banzai, you're kind of just thrown into this world, and there's like this whole mythology that's implied as you go through the movie. And, you know, the longer the movie goes on, there's things that's in there, like, you know, everybody remembers the watermelon. You know, that's in the press, and the guy says, I'll explain it to you later, you know. And it's, you know, it's all these little goofy things in the movie that are thrown away that suggest a larger universe that's going on. And the conceit of Buckaroo Banzai is that, yes, it's the first movie, but they play it as if this has been a series that's been going on for a long time, and you just come into the middle of things that are happening.
Yeah, so you just skipped the origin story altogether, which I appreciate it.
Right. That's the same thing I did with Dillon and the voice of Odin. You know, I just put you in the middle of it, and you're supposed to feel like you just came into the middle of the story, like, you know, okay, like, because it opens up with him being chased by a bunch of guys on this island.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he has to go to the ocean liner and stuff like that. Yeah, you're supposed to feel like you came in the middle of a movie. You know, you say, oh, wow, you know, like you're flipping the channels and, oh, wow, let me stop and see.
Let me stop here and watch this.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the feeling that I was trying to capture on paper.
So was Dillon your first published, I know it was obviously your first published book, but was it the first thing that you had published on that level?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, I had actually, because, see, I go back to when you had to try to publish a book the old-fashioned way. You actually put the book in an envelope and you had to mail it to a publisher.
Yes.
So back in the 1980s, I had tried to sell a Dillon novel.
What?
And, yeah, nobody was biting. Was
it the same premise as Voice of Odin, or?
It was a slightly different version.
Okay.
This one actually, as a matter of fact, it incorporated a lot of the stuff that, because I never throw away anything, I just recycle it. It actually incorporated a lot of stuff that eventually became young Dillon in the halls of Shambhala.
Okay.
So, like, this version was an origin story. And then we went into the adventure, and I said, you know something, this isn't working. And then when I saw Buckaroo Banzai, I said, okay, bang, the light bulb went off. I said, okay, this is what you got to do. Whack off the origin, tell that shit later, and just throw people into the middle of it and let them figure out what's happening on their own. But no, nobody was by. As a matter of fact, I had sent the manuscript to an agent, and the agent had said that he would take me on as a client, but only if I changed Dillon to a white guy.
Oh my! Yeah, that's a no-no.
yeah. He said, listen. He said, there's no way I'm going to sell this, like, you know. And see, my thing was, well, nobody told Ernest Tidyman when he created Shaft that he had to make Shaft a white guy.
Right.
And he was white, Ernest Tidyman. So, you know.
Yes, he was.
I mean, of course, I'm no Ernest Tidyman, but, you know, I said, nah, that, you know, I shook hands with the guy. I said, nah, and mind you, this was a black agent too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was black. Yeah, he was black.
Probably the last time you ever spoke to that guy, right?
Yeah, he said, nah. He said, there's no way I could sell this case. He said, but change him to a white guy. He said, you know, we can work together. I said, nah, that's all right.
Damn. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how did it feel when you first held Voice of Odin in your hands and you had your actual physical copy in your hands? How crazy was that?
You know, the feeling is absolutely indescribable, and I only hope, and you know what? I feel I have that same feeling every time I have a new book that's published. Like I just recently had a book, Will Write for Food.
Yes.
Freelance Stories of Derrick Ferguson. And when I took the book out of the box, I still had that same feeling. And I hope I always had that feeling, because once I start to take it for granted, then I know it's time for me to, you know, throw my guns in the water bucket and ride out.
Right. I get that feeling when I get a new podcast out, which is crazy because I'm in the 90s now. This is episode 89 we're doing now, or episode 90 we're actually doing. And Every time that I know that I'm done with it and I posted it and I can leave it and I put it on social media and walk away from it and I just get to take a moment and be away from it, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, absolutely. But you know, so you're supposed to feel like that because you know what? Because okay, especially with writing. With writing is something that you have to do by yourself.
Yes.
You have to sit for long periods of time. Sometimes you don't feel like doing it. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I don't feel like, oh man, last thing I want to do is sit at this damn typewriter and I gotta write this scene and I gotta deal with this and I gotta deal with that. But at the end of the day, it's still something that I enjoy. I'm not one of these writers that's gonna, you'll never hear me go on and on and on about, oh, it's so horrible. It's so hard doing this writing. Oh, listen, if it's that hard, go sell Tupperware.
Right.
I don't have time for writers that go through all of that BS about, this is so hard. Oh, the tragedy of being a writer. Please,
I believe Biggie once said, "Don't be mad. UPS is hiring."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are people out there. Listen, there are people out there that have to work real jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's not that hard. And if you do feel it's that hard, then go find something else. It's just that simple. Go find something else to do.
Yeah. I mean, you should always, the idea at least is like you want to be doing something work-wise that makes you happy on some level. And like, absolutely, if you want to sit there and cry about writing and using your brain all day to imagine these stories and then put them on paper, then I'd have to agree. You should definitely be selling Tupperware somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm having a ball. I love making shit up. Seriously, I do. I love it. It's the most fun I can have with my clothes on.
Yeah. And that's a quote for today, ladies and gentlemen. So you're a full-time writer now, because I know that you were doing the landlord thing for a while. I don't know if you're still doing that, but
yes, I am.
Okay. So you got that. But obviously you live in the same building that you're doing that in. So it's not like you have buildings all across Brooklyn or anything. And then the other time when you're home and you're not traveling around the country and going to Florida to get away from New York, you are a full-time writer. So can you kind of take me through the process of a normal writing day for you?
Normal writing day is usually I get up about like 9 o'clock in the morning. I have coffee with my wife. We talk about what we're going to do that day, and we have business to take care of. Usually we'll go in the morning and take care of that business, and then in the afternoon, I'll sit down and I'll do my writing. I actually do my best writing. If I wasn't talking to you now,
it'd be right now.
I would be right. Usually I write like from 9 p.m. to like 2 in the morning.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes I take a break and watch a movie like at 12 o'clock like at midnight. And then once the movie is over, I'll sit down and maybe write for an hour, and then I'll go to bed. But usually generally in the morning, what I do is that I read over whatever I did the day before, and I'll edit it, because I edit as I go.
Yeah.
I don't wait till I get to like the end and then I got to edit the whole thing. No.
That's too daunting. I almost feel like.
Yeah. I mean, that's too much. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna lie to none of y'all people. I'm lazy. I don't. That's too much work. So if I've written like 5 pages the day before, in the morning I'll go back and I'll edit those 5 pages, and then what I'll do in the afternoon, then I'll pick up from wherever I left off, and I'll write that. So basically that's how I do it. I'm very relaxed, and I kind of feel kind of guilty about that. But I think that I'm more relaxed about it because I don't have to depend upon my writing for my livelihood.
Yes.
I'm retired.
Everything's bonus.
I've got an income that's coming in, so, I mean, if I had to actually live off my writing, I would probably be starving right about now because I'm very lazy about it.
Right.
but I mean, like when it's a project that I'm really, I mean, when I get seized with the fever, oh, forget about it. Then I'm relentless. Then I tell my wife, I say, listen, don't bother me today. I said, I got something cooking. And she'll say, okay, I'll see you later. And I'll go down in the basement and I'll be down in there for like anywhere from 6 to 8 hours straight, just, working.
Hold up. Hey, woman's again be thinking we saw.
It's like sound advice or whatever. It's like comics, conventions, and cosplay or whatever. It's like ladies' night or whatever. It's like wrestling or whatever. It's like parenting or whatever. It's like anime or whatever. It's like spiritual warfare or whatever. It's like great friends, awesome people coming around doing what we do best or whatever. You should watch, listen, and follow or whatever. It's like a podcast or whatever.
Yeah, that's incredible because the Facebook group that we're in together, you're always posting about stop procrastinating and writing, like just little reminders and stuff, because a huge majority of the people that's in that group are actual writers and creatives. So you're always kind of like pushing us in a gentle way to get back to writing or get back to working on what you're supposed to be working on instead of looking at Facebook technically. So it's kind of like a joke within a joke. But are you the kind of writer that like you want to listen to music or anything, or do you have or you just get to it and like just block everything out and the only thing you see in your head is what's going on that you're about to put to paper or anything like that?
It all depends. Usually when I'm writing Dillon, I've got music. Like I've got like 70s music going. I've got disco music going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I've got that. I've got, like movie soundtracks going, usually James Bond soundtracks. I put that on, all kinds of stuff I play. It all depends because I'm never in the same mood when I'm writing, like when I'm writing Dillon. Like I said, usually I'm visualizing that as a big widescreen IMAX summer blockbuster action movie. So it's appropriate for me to have, like a lot of music going when I'm doing it. When I'm writing something else, like for instance, when I write Sebastian Red, which is my weird Western character, well, of course I'll have, soundtracks from Western movies.
Yeah.
Right?
Good, bad, and ugly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of Morricone that I play, including Greengrass. Those guys that do, the hip hop and they do the bluegrass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'll have that playing. Yeah, like I said, there are sometimes though when I write in total silence.
Right, because like the mood calls for it. I mean, I can't imagine you doing like a heavy scene and then having some Guns N' Roses in the background. It just wouldn't fit. Like you kind of have to shut down and just concentrate on the moment. Right,
especially when I'm writing dialogue, because when I'm writing the dialogue, I'm actually hearing the voices in my head, and I have to pay attention not only to what they say, but how they're saying it.
Yeah, because you want to get the inflections and everything right in your head.
Right.
And then want to convey it. Yeah. No, right. I completely get it. Yeah. So I've mentioned multiple times in our conversations that I feel like that if I ever had the money, I would definitely make it a priority to make Dillon a film of the blockbuster idea that Derrick envisions every time he sits down and write it. Because I will tell you that these books are just a fun ride, like all the way through, and there's just like no part of them that aren't cool to watch even in your head. And so I feel like it would make a ton of money. You could do a trilogy easily, and then you could sit there and reboot it like a couple years later with a different dude. You'd be able to keep on with the Dillon story. So how many books do you have total that's actually released in Amazon as far as Dillon Adventures? Because I think it's like 4. Is that right? Not counting the annual, which used to be 4 bullets. That was the anthology.
It's Voice of Odin,
Mm-hmm.
Legend of the Golden Bell. There was Pirates of Zonera, but that's part of the annual now.
Okay, yeah, you folded it in.
Yeah, well, you know what it was? I had all of these different stories that were floating all over the place, and they were, separate ebooks and stuff like that. And what I wanted to do was just like, because everybody was asking, oh, how come you just didn't write something new? And I said, well, I wanted to consolidate all of these separate stories that were floating around and put them into one book. So this way, people didn't have to go around buying 5 or 6 different separate, like ebooks. They could just buy this one book and bam, you got everything right there. That's in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And Pirates of Zonera was kind of like a short novel. That was kind of like an anomaly because it wasn't really a full novel and it wasn't a novelette. It was like a weird kind of length.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. And that's actually my favorite one, to be completely honest with you. Yeah, I told you when you sent it to me as you gave it to me to preview. I was like, yo, this is the one. Like Zonera is off the chain from start to finish.
Yeah,
right?
that one, like I said, that was kind of an anomaly because I just knew I just wanted to write something where Dillon was in his submarine going somewhere to do.
Yeah.
And then all of these other little things started occurring to me. Okay, well, I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do that. And, and then I started throwing in the little homages to everything like that. Like there's a homage to Enter the Dragon.
Yes, there is.
That's in there, which a lot of people, some people, when I tell them, yeah, they say, what, really? I say, yeah, go back and read this. I say, yeah, that's the Enter the Dragon homage. And, there's homages to all other kinds of little things like the scene that's on the beach where the pirates are having the party.
Yes.
That's a homage to a scene from The Jewel of the Nile, actually.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't catch that one.
Yeah. Well, being a movie fan, and as you're writing a novel, you do get bored writing it.
Yeah.
So me, in order to counteract that when I start getting bored, I will throw in things that, and I know that a lot of times people aren't going to catch, but it amuses me to no end to put them in there. But I am pleased when people do catch it when, like they'll read something and they'll send me an email and they say, okay, I see what you did there. I say, oh, okay, well, you got me.
So you've been doing, like, you've had your Patreon for like maybe 2.5, 3 years, I believe. And
yeah, somewhere around there.
And you've been doing the Dillon serials on there for a while. So what is the current serial that you're running on there currently?
The current one is Dillon and the Island of Dr. Mama Walde.
And can you tell the people a little bit of what that one's about? Because it sounds like obviously it's about being on the island of Dr. Malawande, but do you want to give them a little insight into it, Dave?
Well, what had happened was that there's a certain type of character that I'm in love with, and that's the mad scientist.
Yes.
And I never get to do enough with a man. I did a Dr. Frankenstein novel. I did, The Madness of Frankenstein. And I mean, like, Frankenstein is like the mad scientist. You don't get any better than him. But I wanted Dillon to run up against a mad scientist. And a while ago, Josh Reynolds, who I also met, through fan fiction, he was writing fan fiction, I was writing fan fiction.
Yeah.
And he's gone on to be an exceptional novelist. If you haven't read any of his stuff, folks, do yourself a favor. After you finish listening to me, go to Amazon and put in Joshua R. Reynolds. And he's writing for Black Library now. And he's he's doing Warhammer books and, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, shoot. And, good for him. I didn't realize that.
And also him and I co-wrote a novel together, a Dillon novel.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, The Real Agenda. Where was that?
Available on Amazon right now.
Yeah. So I wanted Dillon to confront a mad scientist. So I conceived the notion of this character, Dr. Mama Walde, who, if you're a fan of the Blackula movies, then you know where I got it from. And Dr. Mama Walde himself is based on the great William Marshall.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I describe him in the story, once you get to that, we haven't got to that part yet. Matter of fact, I just finished chapter 7 yesterday. We still haven't gotten to the damn island yet.
Hey, that's how you know you're telling a good story. If you're still waiting to get to the main character, essentially the whole book, is if you're still working your way there.
Well, Dillon had to go rescue some friends of his from African Revolution, and then they're on this freighter, and then the freighter is hijacked by mercenaries, and Dillon it's a whole mess. So so in chapter 7 they still haven't got to the island yet. But what happens is that eventually when Dillon gets to this island, he will find that Dr. Mama Walde, who has this fantastic complex on the island, and he's there working with his small army, and his son, who is a martial arts master, and his drunken wife, who is all the time selling his inventions on the black market. And he's experimenting with African cryptids.
Okay. Flowers, right?
Yeah, trying to create living weapons that he sells to, various terrorist organizations.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's what that story, that's the current serial that's running. And what happens is that I do these serials, and there's one chapter every month. And when it's finished, I put them all together, I edit it, I streamline it, I, clean up the continuity, and then it will be published in the Dillon annual collection next year.
Right. Because you just put out 2018's annual collection?
Yeah.
The Dillon mythology, guys, it's so fantastic. But we've talked a lot about Dillon, but I don't want to disregard any of your other works that you be doing, because you are constantly, even for being lazy, you're constantly working, Derrick.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just scrolling through the page here, through the Amazon page, and obviously you've contributed to How the West Was Weird. Fortune McCall is on here. I don't think it's available. The paperback is available. I think the ebook wasn't available or something when I tried to get it the other day. I don't know what was happening, but you got Fortune McCall, who is a character that came from the city of Denbrook. That was from Frontier, correct?
Nope.
I mixed it up.
Yeah. Fortune McCall was part of the Sovereign City project.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Tommy Hancock at Prose Productions. He created this city called Sovereign City, and he came to me and he came to Barry Reese. And he said, well, I want you guys to create characters that will be in this city. And Tommy, he created a character. And of course, Barry Reese created, more than one character, because he's got Lazarus Gray and he's got Gravedigger, and he created like a whole host of characters for Sovereign City, which he really made his own. I have to give Barry credit, because I wrote the Fortune Call, and I have the sequel. People keep asking me, when are you going to do the sequel? When are you going to do the sequel? And I have the sequel, and the sequel is about 75% complete. But for the longest time, what had happened was that I was trying to make that sequel a novel, and it didn't want to be a novel. It wanted, because the first book was 4 separate stories. They were interconnected, but they were 4 separate stories.
Okay.
Think of it as it was like 4 episodes of a TV series.
Yeah.
Right. So I wanted to write a novel for the second one, but it just didn't want to be a novel. It wanted to be 4 separate stories.
And so sometimes stories will do that, where it kind of dictates where you need to go.
Yeah. And see, I'm a big believer in listening to my subconscious. He's like this little guy that sits in this grimy little room that's in the back. And, he's sitting there and he's telling me, don't do this, do that, don't do this. And then when I don't listen to him, that's when I run into problems. So finally, I said, okay, I'm going to do what you want. I'm going to break up this novel. I'm going to turn it into 4 separate stories. And once I started doing that, then it started flowing.
So yeah, I was gonna say my apologies. Diamondback is from Denbrook. So
yeah. As a matter of fact, Diamondback is going to be coming out. I have to find out from Tommy Hancock, because I did that as a serial on the Patreon page as well.
Mm-hmm.
I did
because that was after the first Dillon one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I put back in all the sex and violence that I had taken out when it was originally published. I just put back in all the sex. That's all I did. I just put back in sex and violence. So Diamondback is going to be published by Prose pretty soon. I don't know when. I have that one. I've got this Dillon, The Odd Jobs, which I believe is going to be coming out this month, and that's got 4 Dillon stories, but they're not written by me. They're written by other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Who are the authors again? Because I remember you listing them, but just for
Russ Anderson wrote one.
Yeah. Shout out to Russ.
Yeah, which and that doesn't feature Dillon. It's a story that features Ali and Sean Pieri.
Oh, that's right.
Who people will remember from the Pirates of Zanera. That's the mother and son mercenary team.
Yes, it is. The very young son. Like, what? How old is Sean? Sean is like 11.
11 and 12.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting combo. I love them in Zanera. So getting to read more of their adventures is something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. So he wrote one. Eric Fromm wrote one.
Shout out to Eric.
Yeah. Mark Busquet.
Mark. Shout out to Mark.
Yeah, he wrote one. I mean, listen, they're all good, but the one that he wrote is so goofy. It's,
Oh, really?
It is. It's a real goofy story. And who wrote? He's going to kill me if I can't name who wrote the 4th story. Oh my God. Russ. Well, I'll think of it before we finish the interview.
Okay.
But they all came to me and they said, listen, we want to write, Dillon. I mean, people have been telling me for a while that they wanted to do Dillon stories. And I went to Tommy and I said, well, you know what? If I can get a bunch of stories, you publish it, right? He said, listen, I'll publish anything you give me.
Smart man.
So I said, okay. So I went back to the guys and I said, okay, well, Tommy said he'll publish it if you write it. And they did. And they wrote them up. And it's an interesting thing to see characters that you created and written by other people. Because then you get a new insight into them. Like, I'm reading these characters and I know I created them, but it's like I'm reading them and I'm saying, wow, okay, I'm learning things about them that I didn't know before.
Right. It's amazing how people can play in your play box, so to speak, your sandbox, and then you just discover these new traits, and all of a sudden, and you're like, oh, I actually kind of like that. But then you also have the option to throw away something too, if you don't like too much of it.
No. Actually, you know something, and I've had people that ask me. They say, "Oh yeah, well you went through it and you edited it and you threw out stuff and everything like that." And I said, "Nope." I said, "Actually, I did not. I mean, there were like some little continuity things."
Yeah,
obviously. That I might have, said, "Okay, well, let me change this. Let me tweak this just a tad bit." But other than that, no, I left it alone. And what you'll be reading is, that's it. What these guys wrote, that's it. It's on there. I didn't, I didn't go and say, well, listen, you can't do this or you can't do that. Because I didn't want to do that, because I wanted them to write their interpretation of Dillon or, whatever characters they wanted to write. See, otherwise, there was no reason for them to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of Mark, did one of the books of his that I've read, it was 4 short stories. It was a book called Face Your Yesterdays. Oh, Joel. Yes. That's
the other writer that read. Yeah. How could I forget Joel? He's gonna kill me when he hears this.
Maybe not. I doubt it. Joel's a nice guy.
Yeah, he is.
Even though Sly is not a nice guy, but it's all good. So Mark, back to Mark though. Did you read Face Your Yesterdays? That book that Mark put out a few years ago. It has 4 short stories in it.
Which book was that?
It was Face Your Yesterdays. Mark Bosquet did it.
Probably.
Yeah,
I've read most everything that I've read. What was that book of his? I read that about 3 or 4 times now. The Haunting of Kraken Moor. I think I've read that thing. Yeah, I think I've read that thing about like 3 or 4 times now. Yeah.
And of course, he has Kid Rapscallion, his superhero story, which is phenomenal.
Oh man, that's another one I read like 3 or 4 times. I think I was the first time I read that book, and no lie, I put it down, bam, I went right to my keyboard and I wrote a review. And I very rarely do that. And
I followed suit because I did the exact same thing when I finally finished it, like not that long after you, because it's that good that you gotta tell people about it.
Yeah, you gotta tell. And every once in a while, I will repost the review that I did because I said, you know what, if you want to read a superhero novel, this is the one. This is one you definitely should read. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. Don't get me wrong, but that one to me. If I hit the lotto tomorrow, well, of course, first I would I put the money in a Dillon movie, but whatever was left over, I'd probably put it into doing a movie version of that book.
Oh,
That's
man.
how good it is. Yeah.
Hold up. Hey, woman, so get be thinking we saw.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy, EG, aka Ghost Dog, the host of the premier podcast for reviewing live entertainment, mostly concerts. Catch the Show. What is Catch the Show? How you don't know what Catch the Show is? Well, Catch the Show is a little podcast of mine that's part of the great Hyphen podcast group that you should be listening to. Why? What makes this show so special? Well, it's very simple. I have a unique and blessed lifestyle of being able to get paid to see concerts and go and see more concerts. I live in a big city, so there's a lot of music venues around me, and artists are coming to town from left and right, weekly, daily, so that makes a lot of shows I get to catch. And I took it upon myself to create a podcast based on talking about these shows and whatnot, because I didn't see anybody else doing a podcast on concerts and whatnot. So yeah, I took it upon myself to do that, and that's what you get when you listen to the show. You get me talking about pop culture, music-related news, concerts, all the different concerts I've seen, past and recent. I even have a segment called The Catch Up, where I review an artist's catalog from album by album. And yeah, man, I got concerts and I got episodes about concerts from Justin Timberlake to Beyonce to Kendrick Lamar to Drake. You name it, I've probably seen it. So yeah, what are you doing? All right, pause this episode, go to whichever podcast platform you listen to, look for Catch the Show, hit the subscribe button, and then when this episode is over, go give your boy a listen, man, and catch the show. Catch it, all right? hyphenpodcastgroup.com, or find me on any podcast service you listen to. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Radio Public, Anchor, Stitcher. Go listen to the episode and catch the show. Catch it, just like the title says.
Every time I read it, I catch things I didn't notice before.
Right.
And Mark was like, "Oh, I just kind of wrote that on a whim." I was like, "You did that on a whim?"
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah. And know something? You'd be surprised. Those are the ones that turn out. I wrote Search for the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was a lark. I wrote that on a lark. Tommy said, well, you know what? There's this really B movie. He said, I mean, it's a B movie. He said, but I met the guy who wrote the movie, and he directed it, and he starred in it, and he wants a novelization. He said, do you think you could do it? And I said, well, send me the movie. And he sent me the movie, and I just looked at it, and I said, you know something, I can't do a straight novelization, but I can put a spin on it. And I did it just for a lark. And I think that I wrote that like, shoot, maybe like in 2 or 3 weeks. I wrote that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now, and I mean, this ain't no. I mean, it's 176 pages, but still, I mean, it's a novelization of a movie. So I mean, and it wasn't even something you were familiar with, which is even crazier. Like you literally watched it and then went to the keyboard.
Didn't even know anything about it all. And if you ever see the movie, you know, because I've had people who have seen the movie and they've emailed me and they said, I have no idea how you got the story that you wrote from what you saw.
It's a gift.
Yeah, well, listen, I did it like I said. I did as a, you know what, and since I didn't feel any pressure, like, you know, there was no deadline, you know, nobody really cared if I, you know, that's the kind of attitude that I took. Well, listen, nobody's really going to care about this anyway. And that gave me the freedom to do whatever I wanted to do.
Right.
You know,
and that's always a bonus to have too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you amongst all your other writing, amongst all the other things that you're doing in your normal everyday life as Derrick Ferguson, you also take a lot of time to sit down at your own sites, which I believe are like DerrickLFerguson.com, and I believe Dillon has a site. And I don't know if you used to have the Blood and Ink site, or did you kind of fold that into Derrick L. Ferguson?
That's Ferguson Inc.
Okay, that's Ferguson Inc. Okay,
yeah.
FergusonInc.com. So he has many websites which we're going to plug it in so that you can find anything you need to know about Derrick. But Derrick reviews a lot of things, and there will be things that won't surprise you. Like I am sure that, or here we go, Captain Marvel came out in March, and shortly after it came out, Derrick went to go see it, and then he wrote a review of Captain Marvel. But then you turn around and go to his site and check out a review, and he just did a review of the new Jordan Peele movie, Us, which I'm dying to see, and I want to read a review because he doesn't spoil anything. But then you look at other things that he's reviewed recently, like Juanita. I didn't even hear this. This is a Netflix movie that has Alfred Woodard in it, and then you have Crush Groove, which is a hip hop classic.
Yeah.
And so what draws you to, what compels you really to still write reviews of these movies? I know you love the movies, obviously, and you don't have Better in the Dark to kind of talk about, but you want Better in the Dark was in its heyday. You were doing a lot of reviews then. Like, what compels you to go out there and give the people the review? Because I trust your opinion because you're my friend, but what makes you do it, man?
Even before there was such a thing as the internet, I was known among my friends and my family as the movie guy to go to, because back in like the 70s and 80s, I would usually go to 42nd Street in Manhattan. And that was a street on both sides between 7th and 8th Avenue, and there was nothing but movie theaters. And you go there and you could see a double or triple feature for like $2 or $3.
Glory days.
Yeah, I mean, first run movies. And see, there's a lot of movies. Like I remember I wrote a review of what movie was that? I wrote a review of it, and I called it a Grindhouse movie. And of course, somebody, I will not mention any names, emailed me and said, well, that's not Grindhouse. Well, quite obviously, you don't know what Grindhouse is. I said, listen, I was going to Grindhouse theaters before you were gleaming your father's eyes. Exactly. I know what a Grindhouse is because I actually went to Grindhouse theaters. So any movie I saw in a Grindhouse theater is Grindhouse to me, you know. So, so I was always going to movies. I would go to movies like 2 or 3 times a week. You know, because it was cheap back in those days. You know, like I said, I could go for $2 or $3.
Yeah, to see that many movies, how can you pass that up?
See that, right? Yeah, see that many movies. So even back in the 80s, I would have people that would call me up and say, well, listen, I want to go see so-and-so and so-and-so. Did you see it? I say, yeah. So, well, how is it? Oh, man, well, go see it. You'll like it. This is what it's about. And I would give them like, like 30 seconds, I would describe enough of the plot to say, okay, I'm going to go see it. Now, at this same time, I fell in love with a movie reviewer, very famous one, named Roger Ebert.
God bless the dead.
And Roger Ebert, every year, he would publish these massive yearbooks, and they were like 400 pages. And in those pages were all the movie reviews he had written that year. So every year around Christmas, I would get one of these books, and I would sit there and I would just endlessly read Roger Ebert's reviews over and over and over and over and over.
I gotcha.
Over and again. And I say, something, one day this is what I want to do. So along comes the internet. And lo and behold, I can write reviews and I can post them. Which is what I started doing, And I started doing it. And you know what? Of course, people say to me now, oh, well, you should have got paid for this. You should be getting paid for this. I say, yeah, you know what? I should be getting paid for a lot of things.
Yeah,
but I'm not. So, what the hell? You know what? I enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun. It's a way to exercise another set of creative muscles because it's a different type of writing.
Yeah.
Which is what I always tell writers who always say, because that's the one question every other writer is going to ask me. They're going to say, oh, well, what do you do about writer's block? I said, well, write something else.
Yeah.
Don't write what you usually write. Write something else. That's why when I was, because at one point I was writing original fiction, fan fiction, and movie reviews. Well, if you're doing all that different type of writing, which you're using different set of creative muscles, you have no room for writer's block.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta make sure that you're keeping it fresh.
Yeah, that's it. And writing the movie reviews is a lot of fun, and I like telling people about movies that they otherwise might not have seen, like Crush Groove. A lot of people don't know about Crush Groove.
Wasn't even available. Like, if you didn't see it in theaters when it came out, like, you didn't see Crush Groove until like the late 90s when they finally put it on like VHS and stuff. Yeah.
And movies like Golden Needles and like Bill Jones and Three the Hard Way and I haven't done a review of Phantasm yet. But, movies like that people, had never, and again, I get emails from people saying, man, I've never heard of this movie. Thanks a lot, for telling me about it, and, that gives me more satisfaction than writing a review of, say, like something like Avengers Infinity War, which of course everybody's going to go see anyway. I mean, movies like that those movies are review proof. People are going to go see them no matter what, but I still do feel the obligation to write a review because I just want people to know how I feel about, the Marvel movies, which I love. I love all of them. You'll never hear me say a bad thing about them.
This isn't the Spider-Man 3 days, thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care because you know why? Because these are the movies that I've been waiting to see ever since I was 10 years old.
Yes, they are. It still blows my mind that we're seeing this stuff, and it's been 11 years since Iron Man, and to see some of the things we've been able to see since the Marvel Cinematic Universe started, it's amazing to see our comic books come to life on the screen.
I still owe Percival Constantine. I still owe him $10 because for years I was telling him they'll never do a Black Panther movie. And I mean, when I went to see Black Panther, I had a lump in my throat. I really did because I never in my wildest dreams thought I was going to see a Black Panther movie, much less one done that damn good.
I know. I know. I was just talking about how I felt like there's a little bit of a backlash against it, like around award season. Like with people who really loved it at first, and then it's like they're a year removed from it, and they're like kind of nitpicking and stuff. Like I watched that movie, Derrick, and it's just I just get this warm feeling of like euphoria come over me, man, because that movie is top to bottom a great film, And then you get it, and then it's a Black Panther movie.
Yeah.
After that. So I am with you when it comes to that lump in your throat.
Yeah. I mean, stuff like Thor. I never believed I was going to see a Thor movie. Thor, Avengers. Come on. If you had told, I'd have laughed myself into a hernia if you had told me, yeah, right. Yeah, they're going to make an Avenger when pigs fly. But now we have all of these terrific movies. And then we have, other movies that don't do as good and, they're not as well received, but I still enjoy them anyway, like Suicide Squad,
Right.
And then, of course, we have Wonder Woman and Aquaman. Oh, my God, Aquaman.
A lot of people are talking about how good Aquaman is. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, listen, go see. You know what? Go see Aquaman because that's the movie where apparently DC has turned the corner and say, you know what? We're just going to copy Marvel and just get it over with. Because a lot of people I know thought that was a Marvel movie, who don't know the backstory of the character.
Yeah.
Something like that. They thought it was a Marvel movie because, it was similar in tone and feel. And,
Oh, wow.
and that, yeah. It's a lot like Thor. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You sold me. Because I love the first Thor. Loved it start to finish.
Oh, I love Thor. Yeah, well, Thor is my favorite Marvel superhero. Thor. Yeah. I love Thor. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy. Did you ever think we was going to get Guardians of the Galaxy?
No, and I didn't think it was going to work. Like, I went into that movie ready to be disappointed, and I came out, and it's one of my favorite Marvel films.
I came out of the first Guardians of the Galaxy, came out. My wife was saying, "Are you all right?" Because I guess because of the look on my face. And I went home. We went out to dinner. I went to bed. And the next day she had to do something. So I drove her to wherever she had to go. And I went right back to the movie theater and I saw it again.
Hell yes.
The very next day. Yep.
Hell yeah. But, and I mean, it's wild what we've been able to get in moments like that. Like even Ant-Man, like I was ready again, especially after Edgar Wright left it. I was ready to go into Ant-Man. I'm like, all right, this isn't going to be what it could have been. And I came out of Ant-Man and I was like, that was awesome. Never in my life did I think I'd care about an Ant-Man movie.
If you had told me, again, if you had told me a few years ago, Derrick, you're going to go see an Ant-Man movie and you're going to love it. Again, I'd have laughed myself into a hernia.
Man.
And me, and I think that the reason why my reviews are as popular as they are is because I'm spending my own money seeing these movies. So trust me, if I say that the movie is good, you can believe it's good because I didn't see it for free. I paid my money to see it.
And one thing about your review style is that you don't spoil anything, which is huge. So you can safely read a Derrick Ferguson review and get an idea what the movie's about without ruining it. But then you also don't trash anything because there are stuff on here on your site that you don't like. And you're just say, should you watch this movie? Maybe not. But at the same time, you leave it open to the viewer's interpretation and not just shut them down because you didn't like it, which is huge.
Well, you know what? Every movie, no matter how bad I may think it is, every movie is somebody's favorite.
Amen.
No matter how bad I think it is, that movie is somebody's favorite. And I have to respect that. I have to respect the fact that, and one thing that I really, one thing fills me with a lot of disgust. I read a lot of these movie review sites. Mm-hmm. And I say to myself, well, why do these people even bother going to movies? Because apparently there is nothing that they like.
Yeah, and they just tear it down.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one review after another, after another, after another. It's just all this vicious bile, just tearing this poor movie to shreds. A movie that 9 times out of 10, first of all, folks, it's just a movie.
Right.
Save some of that energy for something in your life that actually matters.
Yeah, a lot of people could use that advice nowadays.
Oh my God, it's just a movie, folks. Calm down. But especially the backlash that, like a lot of these superhero movies get now, it really makes me despair of the human race sometimes.
People are just awful to each other, especially once they get on those keyboards, man. And it's been a problem that has been since the internet's come into the mainstream. Essentially, it's always been a problem. But nowadays, it's just so easy to kind of point and click and just say whatever you want to somebody and then not have to worry about the consequences because it's the internet and people just don't care. They have no filters anymore. It's crazy.
Well, that's it. I mean, if it's somebody, if I'm in Brooklyn and somebody is in, East Patagonia, and they can say whatever they want. I have no way of getting to them, so they feel, safe enough. Well, I can call him an asshole. What's he going to do? And they're right. There's nothing I can do about it. Only thing I can do about it is, and I get, a lot of times I'll get slammed for, some little petty bullshit, everything like that.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I can do is just not engage that person, which I don't. I don't give them that satisfaction.
And a lot of people won't turn their cheek. They want to have the last word, and it's not worth it. Like you're just wasting your time and energy trying to one up this person instead of just letting it go and moving on with your life, like you just said.
Yeah, and listen, let me tell you something. And there are some people you will never have the last word because they will stay on that keyboard all day and all night if necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. They just, yeah. I've been there a few times myself.
Yeah.
Like that.
And you know what is just not worth it. Just say, okay, well, you know what? Just let me just leave that person alone,
right,
and put my energies into something more worthwhile.
100%. So that pretty much takes care of your words of wisdom for this episode because that you nailed it right on the head. That you just need to put your energy towards something more worthwhile and not worry about such petty shit that people try to drag you into.
Yeah. And I would much rather be an encourager and encourage people than tear down and destroy because that's easy. That's easy to do. It doesn't take any wit or intelligence or sophistication to tear down another human being. But try to encourage other people, try to, bring a little light into their life, make them laugh, entertain them. That's a gift. That's what you strive for. That's what in my own small way, that's what I try to do. I don't know how successful I am. The only ones who can judge that are the people that read my stuff.
100%. Oh, man. So I'm going to tell you one more story about Derrick and me, and then we're going to start plugging some things and get on up out of here. So I, as we mentioned before, used to write fan fiction. I used to write for this site called DC Anthology that I founded with the aforementioned Eric Fromm and another friend of mine, Clayton Tooley. We started Marvel and DC Anthology and everything. And I used to write Robin, like Tim Drake Robin back in the day. And we actually did a reboot. And I was I was like on the second volume of the Robin series. I was trying to retell stories I'd already told like a few years earlier, except with, just some updated things. And I knew more as a writer and everything. And I wrote this issue and I put it out. And actually, it might have been Robin Volume 3 for anybody who's keeping count at home. But seriously, I put out the issue and I kept reading it. And I thought it was good. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to send this to Derrick. And I just want to see what he thinks of it. Because if anybody's going to tell me this needs tweaked and this needs tweaked, I'm going to send it to Derrick. And so I sent it to him. And it took a couple of days because, Derrick has a life. And he got back to me and said, I'm going to eat some chicken real quick and then I'm going to read this. And I said, all right, cool. So he looked at it and he kind of broke down some things. He's like, how come Robin's not in the story? Like everybody else is more important than Robin in the story. I'm like, see, I'm trying to set the scene and I'm trying to put all the pieces together and and he's in college now, and try to do all this. And Derrick never once said, this is bad, you shouldn't do this or anything like that, because that's not Derrick. Obviously, you just heard how Derrick approaches things. But essentially what Derrick got to at the end of the day, he was like, and I'm going to read this quote for quote. So he said to me, He said, "I don't mean to piss in your rice bowl regarding this story, but after reading not only the second issue but the first one as well, I only asked him to read the second one, folks. He went back and read the first one. He said, I think that your real interest is in the story you're telling about the campus life and not the one about Robin." And then he said, "Feel free to contact me." Yeah. And he said, "Feel free to contact me if you want to discuss this further, and we can exchange a few more emails." But that, I mean, like I said, me and Derrick had just started like getting to know each other like as online friends and stuff. Obviously, we're still online friends, even though I have an open invitation to Brooklyn, which I keep trying to exploit. And Angel's like, "You're not going to Brooklyn." I'm like, "Okay, well, one day I'm going to Brooklyn." And yeah, I greatly appreciated it because he cut right through the bullshit. Like, he gave me critiques on the stuff, but then he was like, "You're trying to tell the story about him being in college, but your story is more about college. You need to cut the crap and get to Robin. It's not about UCLA, the boy wonder. It's about Robin, the boy wonder." And I took it to heart because I was just like, I wasn't upset, but I really appreciated that he took the time to read this random dude he knew, his little Robin stories. And I actually think it helped me become a better writer. I ended up getting focused on music and stuff and not ever finishing that series. But at the same time, I always appreciated Derrick's honesty with me. And then that's the reason why I've always held him in such high opinion, because of that moment.
Oh, well, yeah. And, when you said that, I said, okay, yeah, now, okay, I do remember that. Yeah, I remember that. But yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, for whatever reason, God chose to gift me with this talent. And, one thing I have many faults, trust me, but selfishness is not one of them. And
no, it's not.
This talent just isn't for me to hoard and everything like that. And if somebody thinks that I can help them, if they have enough regard and respect for my talent to seek out, any advice that they think I can give, I'm more than happy to give it. Listen, it doesn't cost me anything except time. And, I got plenty of that.
Absolutely. So one, I'm hella glad that you came on, man. It was good catching up with you.
Thank you for having me. It's good. We haven't chatted in a long time. This was a nice little chat.
I agree.
Always good to reconnect with friends.
And we're going to do it. We'll do it again more, like not like every few weeks, but because I know you got to write. I don't want to keep you from writing, which I did tonight. But
oh no, listen, don't worry about it. Listen, I'll make it up tomorrow. I have nothing to do. Tomorrow. So
there you go. So for all you Patreon people out there supporting Derrick Ferguson, he's getting back to it tomorrow. Don't worry. Okay? Trust me.
Yeah, I've got, as a matter of fact, I have one more chapter to finish up because I got 3 serials that are running on there. There's the Dillon serial. Mm-hmm. There's my soap opera, Shadows over Samandi. And then there's One Night in Denbrook, which is my homage to 1980s action movies.
Right. And I love the fact that you're doing the soap opera because I never expected that I would get hooked into a soap opera. Like my mom used to watch like General Hospital and all that stuff that used to come on like ABC Daytime back in the day. But I actually ended up getting hooked on Days of Our Lives, like late night or in high school. And I would literally I was stuck on it for a couple of years. So I can definitely appreciate the soap opera genre.
See, you never watched General Hospital back when it was a pulp action adventure every day.
No, I did not.
Yeah, when they had, it was, as a matter of fact, know who was on the show then? Demi Moore.
Oh,
she was on there playing intrepid reporter Jackie Templeton. And it was Luke and Laura Spencer. It was Jackie Templeton. And it was secret agent Robert Scorpio.
Oh, damn.
And they were running around, and there was these secret societies, and there were mad scientists, and there were ninjas. And it was crazy. It was like every day it was a pulp action adventure. That's what it was. That it was crazy. And they had, it culminated with this classic story arc that fans of General Hospital still talk about to this day, called The Ice Princess, where this this guy, he had this freeze ray, and he was
What?
freezing, and he was freezing the town of Port Charles.
No way.
Yeah,
This is wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was during Elizabeth Taylor came on there. She was a supervillain.
Oh shit, Derek.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, General Hospital. There was a period there where it was crazy, man. You was watching it, you said, man, what are these? I was watching, I said, man, what are these cats smoking? Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. So some you learn something new every day, and I just learned that General Hospital used to be badass, apparently.
Yeah. And then you had Edge of Night, which was a crime soap opera.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course there was Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadow. I knew of Dark Shadows, yeah, and not anything to do with that remake that they made a few years ago, the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, Dark Shadows had vampires and werewolves and ghosts and witch and time travel and alternate universes and oh man, please.
Well, just goes show what we're missing from daytime television nowadays.
Shit, I'm telling you, daytime TV was bad back in the day.
Man, we're missing out. I'm mad. See, and you can never get like soap operas on DVD because they come out every single day. There's no way you're going to get 365 episodes of a whole year on DVD. I don't know if they've tried. I'd never looked to see if they have, but it's just something that's uncollectible.
No. I mean, the only soap opera that I know, well, Dark Shadows is on Amazon Prime, and I highly recommend it for anybody. You know, if you've never seen Dark Shadows before, you know, please, if you got Amazon Prime, start watching it. I mean, it's okay. It's obviously done on a budget of $11.95, but it's a history lesson.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I always tell people to look at, you know, movies and TV shows from that period. A lot of times, we can look at the popular entertainment of years past, and that will tell us a lot about the way that people thought and acted and, you know, what the society was like at the time that movie was made.
Yeah, like I saw some of the old Dark Shadows. Like I actually watched some. I remember. I think I went over a friend's house and they had some of the Dark Shadows on. So I have seen some of the old stuff. So I'm going to definitely have to check that out because obviously if Derrick Ferguson recommends it, then you know it's good, ladies and gentlemen. At least in my opinion. So, Derrick.
Yes, sir.
Aside from Amazon, you can find any of Derrick's books on Amazon. You can get ebooks, you can get paperbacks. The whole run of that, you can do that on Amazon. But where can people find you on the interwebs?
Okay, now here's what you want to do. I have 3 places that you can go to find out anything you want about me. Go to Google, put in Dillon. Now that's the site that's got everything you want to know about Dillon. If before you pick up one of the books and you want to read it, this is where you go. There's a little bit of background about the character, his supporting cast, his world. There's artwork there from the terrific Sean E. Ali, who, since the Dillon series has been moved to Prose 8, he's designed the cover. Percival Constantine, he designed the Dillon logo. And I thank them for their contribution. They are both fantastically talented gentlemen. So you go there. Now, for my movie reviews, you want to go to the Ferguson Theater. And last count, I think there was about like close to 400 reviews that was up there.
And that's not counting what you did in early 2000s, like on Digitally Mystic and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, please forget about it. Oh, yeah, that's when I was doing the fan fiction stuff. You know, the reviews of fan fiction, yeah. So you go there. Now, for everything else, you want to go to Ferguson Inc., and that's Inc. like INK. And there you have everything else. There's some essays I've written that are up there. There's some essays written by Shawnee Ali. There are interviews that I've done with other writers. I've got some book reviews up there as well. Yeah, so between those three websites, you will find out everything about me that you could possibly want to know. Yes, I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook. There's a group that I'm on most of the time called Usimi Dero. That's USIMIDERO. You can go there. Kaylin is a member of it. A lot of the people that we've spoken of in this episode, they're members there too. You know, we all hang out there. We have a good time. It's very relaxed. It's very laid back. It's just a place for, it's a group I just started mainly so I could hang out with people I like to hang out with.
And it's a nice getaway from the rigmarole of Facebook. Like, you scroll through your normal timeline, you see shit you don't like, and you're like, man, I'm not even on Facebook. And then you like see something from Usimi Dero, and you're like, I'm into that. Let me go pop into the group for a little bit. And it's actually a good way to waste some time on Facebook because you're in a warm, safe environment, essentially. There will be some debates, but I've never seen any kind of flame war or actual like real life vitriol come out of anybody on the Usimi Dero group. So I'm happy you created it, and it's a great group that you started.
Well, you know what it is that, you just have to pay attention to your group and what you're doing. A large part of the problem I found with a lot of Facebook groups is that the administrators or the people that create the groups, they just create them and they just, leave everybody out there hanging.
Right.
Let them do whatever they want to do. And, hey, you'll have a group that very quickly turns into Lord of the Flies.
That's exactly what it is. So, yeah, man, I'm still kind of geeked that we did this because, like I said, Derrick's been a long time friend of mine, and one of the very first people I probably mentioned on this podcast is having on the podcast, and now here we are, episode 90, and got Derrick Ferguson on, so that's another check mark off of the list for me. So, again, I can't thank you enough, D. I appreciate it.
I am delighted and happy that I was able to do this. And, listen, we got to do this again. That's all I got to say.
100%.
Again, soon and often.
Now the next step, I guess, would be, maybe get Tom on here and then really go at it. But I'm going to have to clear my schedule for that because that's not going to be a short conversation if we get all three of us on here.
Oh no! If you get no, listen. Excuse me. If you're gonna have Tom DJ on, it's not gonna be a short episode.
No, this is not gonna be a short episode because Tom is another dear friend of ours. You've spent time with Tom in real life. I've had phone conversations and many online conversations with Tom, and we both love Tom to death. But there's nothing short-winded when it comes to Thomas Deja. And I remember I was like, I'm gonna go podcast with Derrick and Thomas, and they said it should only take about an hour, and it's like the SpongeBob 3 hours later, and I didn't regret any of it, not one bit of it. So again, guys, go if you haven't ever done it, check out the Better in Dark podcast. Please, 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 please go to patreon.com/Derrick Ferguson. Check out what my man is writing over there. Donate a little something. Like he says, the writing is not his main income. He's retired. He gets the kickback, but he does not mind if you pay him for his hard work and labor over there. So go donate to my guy. Give him some love. Tell him that I sent you. And remember, he listens to every podcast. So because he said it earlier, he said, I listen to every podcast. I'm like, I know you do. So you better be watching yourself, or Derrick Ferguson will be coming for you because I know he's got my back and I got his. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate you guys listening. Derrick, thank you again.
Thank you. I want to thank your listeners. Thank you for your patience, most of all, And
man.
thank you for all the good things that you said. You know, I'm gobsmacked. You know, I don't take compliments very well, but thank you. You know, I
Yeah,
appreciate
you're welcome. I didn't bring you on here to do that, but at the same time, I was like, I have to do that. I want to get these out of the way, so next time I can just trash talk you the whole time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we can just go back and forth. I don't care.
All right.
Talk about each other's moms and stuff. That's fine. Take it back to the hood.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks, y'all. Greatly appreciate it. Can Derrick, can I get either a good night and God bless or a go see that movie for the people just one time do it for me, Derrick?
Matter of fact, I'm going to give you both. I'm going to tell you folks that no matter where you go or what you do, go see that movie and good night and God bless.
That's perfect. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and comment. This has been a Hyphen Podcast Network production.
They're the bestest. I'm getting paid at exposure.